Now to catch up with Montana Congressman Ryan Zinke, of course, former Trump Interior Secretary, retired Navy Commander. We just talked with Navy SEAL Tim Sheehy, now Navy SEAL Commander Ryan Zinke. Commander, good to see you.
Good to be here. Well, it's really not good to be here in Washington D.C., but I'm here. Where we still have work to be done, situations. But having said that, I got to tell you, from a Navy SEAL perspective, this is a really dumb idea to shut down the government, and it's executed poorly. So what we have is on now one November.
This is the Schumer con-out. The Schumer concept of operations.
Let's just call it for what it is. This is about protests. It's not about policy. If you want to talk about health care, then that's why we have committees, and everyone gets that. Hey, there's this end on January 1st. The health care costs going to go up. Everyone's going to look at it. Yeah, it's an issue for both sides. But the shutdown itself is just about a protest. So, and the Senate has to decide when to come back. But here, as a former secretary who went through the longest shutdown, is that this has consequences, meaning that the troops, likely President Trump is going to try to pay them again. But you got a lot of people that are standing tall at their duty stations not getting paid. And from a former commander, there's a couple things you don't do. You don't mess with a sailor's pay. Because when you mess with a sailor's pay, you mess with a sailor's family's pay. And so you got interest rates now on a credit card are at 25%. So you don't pay, that means they're going to load the credit card up. So it's going to cost people that are just doing their duty. And then talk about WIC. A WIC is there for people that really need help, right? There's a lot of abuse.
Women, infants, and children.
Yeah. But it's there for people that need some help. And now you're going to withdraw that and hold it over politics. And then you talk about SNAP, the same thing, a lot of families. So this has real consequences. And then just on the FAA, all right, our air traffic controllers are critical and essential. They're at their post. But I can tell you there's a lot of contracts that do maintenance on the screens, the systems, the lights at the airport, and a lot of those contracts over time will falter. So what in the air will be safe, but it's going to cause less, more disruption because you have less flights, and it's going to be more disruptions, and which is going to hurt businesses. And so anyway, I'm hoping this nonsense comes to an end. But I'm obviously at my post.
Yeah, so the Senate's up and running, because they keep having votes and the Democrats keep voting to shut down the government. Who knows? They may keep it going through the November 4th elections because they don't want to anger their far left base, because they want their far left base to come out for the Kami Mamdani and Spanberger and these other races. So they might continue this no matter how much it harms their own constituency, just to feed the radical left monster, essentially, that they've created.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. What's going on is that on the Senate side, and look, I get what they're protesting against. They don't like President Trump. They find President Trump to be probably braggadocious. They don't like him. They've never liked him. But they're protesting against Donald J. Trump and his policies. All right, you're protesting against. But what are you protesting for? That's a fair question, right? We fought, for our country. You're a Montana National Guard hero. Look, we fought for our country. So what did you fight for? So are you really fighting for open borders? Are you fighting for health care for illegal aliens? Are you fighting for men playing women's sports? Are you fighting for transgender mutilation of children? I mean, what are you fighting for? And you saw that during these protests. The signs were all over the map. Climate change to abortion rights to whatever, which is great. And I'm glad most of the protests that we had were largely peaceful. And you and I defended the rights of people to protest, so that was good. But when you look at the view of what they were protesting for, America's not there. And certainly Montana is far, far, far from there.
It was so great yesterday. Jesse Ramos and I, Jesse Ramos with AFP Montana and I, we were walking across the Capitol because we had just gotten to run into Vice President J.D. Vance, caught up with Senator Daines after their GOP lunch with the Vice President, and then we ran into Chairman Jim Jordan, who was just in the Flathead with you last summer. We did a really cool rally at the ballpark there in Kalispell, but.
I had dinner with Jim last night.
Did you? Oh,
did.
nice. Yeah, great. Yeah, we said
great
hi to him.
Great member. And tell you, one thing I like about Jim is, he's a wrestler of NCAA. I think he was maybe lost one in his career, but he just has that go get 'em, never quit, mentality, and he's driven. And he's also a good golfer, by the way. He golfed up in Whitefish.
Oh, nice, nice. Well, it was so cool seeing him, and of course he was hanging out with Francis in Big Fork, one of our great listeners as well.
Yeah.
But I say that to say that the Republican House has gotten a lot of work done. I don't know if they've, on these appropriations bills, and of course Schumer's trying to bring that to a halt as well. But what all is being done right now so that when the government is back up and running, boom, we get right back into knocking these appropriations bills out one by one, and then codifying a lot of the great work that the Trump administration is doing more on that front too.
Yeah, and you look at the One Beautiful Bill, some of the significant wins on, there's $50 billion worth of rural health care. And that's distributed by the states to address, needs that are not New York City or San Francisco-based healthcare. Rural healthcare in Montana has a lot of things that are a lot different, right? And the flexibility to put resources in and shore up our rural hospitals is important. So there's $50 billion sitting there, but it goes to state. So they want to remove that. So part of the provision of this shutdown, they want to remove that provision, and we're not going to go there. I'm an optimist. Back to the shutdown. I'm an optimist. It's going to hurt, unfortunately, people that shouldn't get hurt. I think the shutdown is an indication that Congress is not doing their job. But in this case, the House did our job. And the Senate rules are 60 votes. So you have
just a tiny handful of Democrats are keeping it shut down right now. And all the public employee unions, which should have been the base of the Democrat Party, they're hammering their own Democrats right now.
They should hammer because a shutdown doesn't solve anything. If you're gonna try to solve health care, remember Obamacare was supposed to do that. And then Obamacare was supposed to relieve the ranks on Medicaid. It didn't. So healthcare costs have gone up 40% or 60%. Medicaid rolls are filled, and the actual service of getting healthcare, being accessible, affordable, reliable, has diminished. So what we're looking at is reduce the pharmaceutical costs. That will help. The President's been on that and driving hard on that. But structurally, we got to look at where the costs are too. And the triad, it was important, is affordability, accessibility, and quality of service. Right, that's the triad.
Do you, with Speaker Johnson, we were kind of talking about this yesterday with Speaker of the House Mike Johnson. What a good guy. What a nice guy. But it seems like because he's such a good guy, he's really helped keep the Republicans in the House together. And then, of course, having President Donald J. Trump keeping Republicans together as well. But do you think we're finally on the path now to going back to like the balanced budget of the Newt Gingrich 90s and then reining in more of this deficit spending and reining in this national debt?
Well, I think President Trump described Speaker Johnson probably the best of anyone. He said he was hardworking, and I can tell you absolutely 100% he is hardworking. He works as hard as Donald J. Trump, which I've never seen anyone work around the clock like he does.
That's saying something.
And he said he's a good man, and Speaker Johnson is a good man. I think he's got a good background. He wants to do it for America, and he's a religious man, and I think that's pretty obvious to everyone where his guide and compass is. But he's been effective.
20 seconds to go before the break. What did you hear at Montana Coffee from the Montanans that were here?
They're just this first time we've had Montana Coffee in Senator Daines' office. It was nice to hang out with the senator and Tim Sheehy, and it was nice. We do this every week. Wednesdays, usually the Hart Building, but it's nice to just talk to Montanans, and see what's going on and what issues they have, and it's just nice to be among good folks.
All right. Well, Congressman Zinke, great to see you. Thanks for being with us.